Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And boys and girls, Hollywood has had a shockwave sent through it. Everyone is freaking out over there in Hollywood. There are emergency meetings. There are phone calls. There are phones being picked up with calls being whispered in. There are text messages being sent. There are emails being sent. Hell, there was even probably some carrier pigeons sent out there in Hollywood because, ladies and gentlemen, President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has now threatened Hollywood and authorized his Commerce Secretary to look into implementing 100% tariff on any movies made overseas and then distributed in the United States, boys and girls. And Hollywood has obviously very well been known for a very long time, especially in the last 10 years or so, for making movies over there in foreign countries, whether it be for reasons of wanting to be on location for a specific set or part of the storytelling thing, or because Hollywood can't keep its budgets under $500 million and have to go to places like the United Kingdom where they get massive amounts of tax rebates, which we're talking about, of course, Disney's Marvel currently is filming Doomsday, the Avengers movie out there, or of course all of the Star Wars movies that were funded over there that all easily cost $500 million a piece and were all box office disasters after all of the real numbers came out. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump ain't putting up with it anymore. You sending all of our jobs overseas, especially at a time right now where Hollywood has been devastated. There are so many Americans out there in Los Angeles that have been working in Hollywood for decades as people like camera operators, microphone boomstick operators, and all of the rest of the frontline workers out there that have lost all of their jobs because these studios can't keep these budgets under $500 million and have to go overseas to get a tax break in order to just even argue that they broke even on their movies. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Hollywood is freaking out and things sure are a-changing, and we have no idea what the full-blown fallout for all of this could end up being. But hey, anytime Hollywood's freaking out is a joyous reason to celebrate. Am I right, boys and girls? So as you can see over here from fandompulse.substack, President Donald Trump announces 100% tariff on movies produced in foreign lands. And it's not just Fandom Pulse. Variety over here. Movie industry shocked and confused after Trump says he'll put 100% tariffs on films produced outside of the U.S. This is nuts. And it's not just future projects that are all in jeopardy because, boys and girls, Hollywood stocks are collapsing as well. So it's a beautiful thing to see, boys and girls. I love it when a good plan comes together, and at the end of the day, Hollywood has done this to themselves between overbloated budgets and nonsense arguments with all the kind of agenda-driven storytelling that they've been injecting into all of their movies and television shows for over a decade at this point, and now the chickens are finally coming home to roost. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to check out this article from Fandom Pulse. Of course, stop over on Variety as well, and give us all of the extra little juicy details that they've got for us as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,800. We're sailing our way towards 1,900, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. What do you think about this? Do you think this will actually be good for a lot of the first line workers out there in Hollywood, with these companies being forced to bring their productions back into the United States and actually be able to give American people the jobs again that they have worked for in so long? Or do you think this will end up just costing the actual consumer out there a whole bunch of extra money? I mean, what are we going to do? $40 box office tickets? Yeah, that dog certainly ain't going to hunt with the American people. So let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to support this channel and become a member, please check out the links in the description down below, and you will get your name at the end credits of every single one of these videos. All right, from John F. Trent over at Fandom Pulse. President Donald Trump announced that he has authorized the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representatives to issue 100% on all films produced in foreign lands. And just for a general little on-the-side math thing, in case you don't understand exactly what that means, and I don't blame you, math is hard. It was never my good subject. But 100% tariff means that if your movie costs $300 million to produce, like what we've seen from a lot of the Hollywood major productions over the last few years, now in order to import that movie, it's going to cost you an additional $300 million. So essentially your production budget has now doubled, $300 million to $600 million. What do we know about that? Well, that means you've got to make like $1.8 billion globally in order to argue you made a profit for your movie. Yeah, don't think there's going to be anything Hollywood's been producing lately that's going to come even close to sniffing that outside of maybe Avatar 3. In a post to Truth Social, President Trump wrote, well, let's just go right down to his post. Why not take it straight from the horse's mouth? The movie industry in America is dying, a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the U.S. are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. I mean, seriously, we've seen the spirit of the age, agenda-driven nonsense for literal decades at this point, boys and girls. Don't believe me? Have you seen Disney lately? Have you really? Have you seen the video game industry lately? Really? Really? Last of Us Season 2, anybody? Yeah, needless to say, I think you get our point. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce, the United States Trade Representations, to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again, and amen to that. We're considering a time when the U.S. economy is suffering. So many people are out of jobs. So many people are having trouble finding work right now. That's exactly what we need. An infusion of jobs out there. And the whole propaganda thing, right? Even if it's not about like the woke agenda and the spirit of the age stuff. How many times has the Walt Disney Company censored a movie poster or censored an entire movie to capitulate to somewhere like China or the Middle East? This is something that has been talked about by many heads and many people in Hollywood before. The over-influence of China in Western television and in Western movies and in Hollywood overall. They're always trying to chase that big budget, that big box office over there in Hollywood, which are over there in China, which if you look at the numbers over the last few years is drastically shrinking. Even China's billions of people over there aren't buying what Hollywood is selling. They're preferring films made in their own country. So maybe chasing that China dollar wasn't such a good idea after all. But of course, Hollywood is freaking out. Especially Hollywood producers and people like that overseas, but also to back up the whole idea that this would bring American jobs back to American workers out there in Hollywood. Even Variety itself talks about this because they go on down over here right now that it's one of them situations where all of this stuff is really down there low. So President Donald Trump's plan to enforce 100% tariffs on foreign produced films was met with shock and disbelief across the European film industry. Oh, the European film industry. Of course that's what Variety's worried about, not American jobs. It's unclear how the levies were announced over the weekend on social media would be enforced and which productions are most vulnerable to tariffs. Yet there are widespread concerns that if they are enacted, Trump's latest move has the potential to upend and potentially decimate a global film business that relies on a network of international incentives and foreign locations to make movies. Why are we worried about other countries' film markets when ours is struggling in the United States? It's absolutely insane out here. So we talk about all of this other stuff, the reaction from the UK, the reaction from people over there in London, and everything else. But here's where the part that they're trying to bury the lead on. Production in the US is down 40%. 40%, boys and girls, yet the only thing Variety seems to be concerned about is how this is going to affect other countries' film markets, where we've lost almost half of our productions in the United States. And Hollywood resolved strikes with actors and screenwriters and unions, and some major films, including the next Avengers movie, have been decamped for the UK and other European cities. We know how big that Doomsday movie is going to be. How many people, how many Americans would you have employed if that would have been here? Incentives are partly responsible for the move. Also, the $500 to $600 million over-blooded budgets, which are the only reason they have to seek those kind of tax havens. It's the only reason they have to seek those kind of incentives to begin with. Incentives are partly responsible, although many states such as Georgia and New York offer generous film funding packages that rival those of other countries. Oh, but that's right. We can't film in Georgia because the political leadership is evil and bad. But they'll gladly move right over to London, where, of course, their government's all about the spirit of the age political agenda. Now, aren't they, boys and girls? So at a time when even Variety itself admits that American Hollywood jobs are at an all-time low, even then, they still are only asking other people from overseas. But once again, Hollywood lobbying arms such as the Motion Picture Association have argued that the U.S. needs a federal film incentive as a carrot to lure productions back. Trump appears to have opted for using tariffs as a stick, and I'm okay with that. You just said in your own article, Variety, that Georgia and New York offer better tax incentives that rival or do better than these other countries. So why are you only asking people that are in London? Why are you only asking all of these people from other countries, Europe and France in particular, said consumers in Europe, talking about this Italy's Rome people over here. This is who you're interviewing. We know how much American production benefits from our tax incentives. All of these people overseas are the only people they're asking. Now, obviously, I haven't got a chance to go through every single one of these people out here, but needless to say, I haven't seen any articles about maybe some of the hopeful things about bringing these productions back to the U.S. might actually do to invigorate Hollywood. And at a time when L.A. suffered all of these massive fires and everything else, what better time to bring this? But this is one of the funny parts that I thought. One of the cope arguments that they tried using in this article. Ultimately, it's just going to push the studios to make much heavier use of AI. In what? VFX production? That's a small fraction of the jobs that the majority of any Hollywood movie out there actually makes. All you're talking about is because you're not going to be able to use the AI for everything else you guys are afraid of right now, right? It's not going to replace actors and actresses and all of that other kind of stuff. It might supplement and help out with a lot of the VFX work, but that's not going to replace a camera operator. That's not going to replace a mic boom operator. That's not going to replace a guy that builds a set unless you're like Disney and give us the really weird stuff of where you do everything on a green screen. But obviously we've seen a lot of studios move away from all of that kind of stuff too. So at the end of the day, that is straight cope and simply trying to send fear through people. Well, guess what? Some of that fear is working, and it's Trump's fears that are working, because as you can see over here as well, another wonderful effects of this just currently threatened tariff, not even a full-blown actual implemented one yet. Here's hoping. Hollywood stocks rolled after Trump threatens a 100% tariff on movies produced in foreign lands. Shares of entertainment companies, including Disney, Netflix, which primarily depends a lot on getting cheap overseas movies and television shows to put on their streaming service in the United States, where it gets the majority of its viewership from. We've already been over Disney. Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount Global took a hit Monday as investors assessed Hollywood's potential exposure to President Trump's as yet undefined vow to impose a 100% tariff on foreign-produced films. Now, one of the other funny parts about that as well is Warner Brothers just started doing Supergirl over there in Europe, over there in the United Kingdom. But they just got done wrapping the Superman film, where they filmed most of it in the United States. I mean, Chicago was the backdrop for Metropolis. So you didn't have any probably doing it for that movie, Warner Brothers. Why are you running off over there? Oh, that's right, because nobody in Hollywood wants to work in that evil Georgia, even though Variety says it's got better tax incentives than the United Kingdom. Can't have that. Now can we, David Zaslav? At the open of the U.S. stock market, regular trading Monday, Netflix's stock was down 3.3%. Disney was down 2.4%. Warner Brothers was down 4.2%. And Paramount was at 2.2%. Now, those of us that, know basic math and stuff like that, these numbers don't seem like a lot. But when you think about the fact that these companies are billion-dollar companies, a drop of 2 or 3% equals tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in lost company worth just because he announced this and is telling them that, guess what? Your American companies need to start producing movies in America again. I know, strange concept. The declines were steeper than in the broader market indexes like the S&P and everything else. Lionsgate slipped more than 7% in early trading. The declines for the S&P were 0.7% and 0.8% for the NASDAQ. Obviously, drastically more than just any kind of shills out there will try to say, it's just normal market stuff. Trump didn't do it. Oh, yes, he did. Although since Orange Man is bad, they'll probably gladly, completely, and totally blame him on this. They go through the entire stock. They only told through the entire breakdown of all of this. Hollywood stocks had regained ground, but most remained in negative territory, and that was by 11:30 a.m. Eastern time at the time of the recording of this video, boys and girls, but it doesn't matter. They're still down. They still did not recover what they lost. And guess what? Americans haven't recovered from all the jobs they lost for this practice of Hollywood doing this for decades. Variety itself said that Georgia and New York have better tax incentives than the United Kingdom. Then why aren't you filming them there? Why aren't you hiring American workers to do these jobs and produce these movies? Because you're asking us Americans, when you release these in our box offices, to take our hard-earned money earned in America and spent them on your foreign-produced films that literally hired foreign workers instead of our fellow Americans for jobs. Let them spin this all they want. Let Variety run and cry to every foreign market out there and let them listen to them cry about how they're going to lose jobs. Screw them and screw that. America first is an absolute thing, because at the end of the day, maybe, just maybe, if you were filming these things in places like Georgia, places with common sense Americans instead of that little bubble you all live in Hollywood and places like New York City, then maybe, just maybe, you'd start to realize this is agenda-driven storytelling BS. It's the majority of Americans that don't agree with it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally realize that you are indeed the minority and you might even be the baddie. At the end of the day, Trump is just trying to bring American jobs back to Americans. Production companies that expect us to fill their coffers at the box office, well, guess what? If these tariffs go through, you are now going to be forced to come back to the United States or by all means lose even billions of dollars more at the box office. It just makes for another wonderful video for me to make. And guess what, Hollywood? Between your overinflated budgets, your agenda-driven storytelling, and your own narcissism and ego, this 100% tariff smack in the face from Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America, is exactly what you deserve.